Howdy folks, welcome to the 3D Sapiens Road Show. I'm your host Dan Davis, and I am here at Nelder Grove, which is about a quarter of the way between Yosemite and Kings Canyon National Park, which is down here. Fresno's over here, and so on. So Nelder Grove is right here. This is the geographic center of giant sequoias, like the one behind me, and there's some really big ones around, which you can see by the stumps, by the one behind me over here. Anyway, I've done several videos here now at Nelder talking about the giant sequoias and a few other things. You can check those out. But today, finally, I am doing the last in the spirituality program introduction. See, here on YouTube, this YouTube thing, this program is like on any old television station where there was so many different programs throughout the day, right? I've got so far about 14. Spirituality is one of them. So the introduction ones are big and they take a while, and so that's why I've been taking a while to get this done. I've been moving and so on and so forth. But anyway, so today I'm going to be talking about basically summarizing what this type of spirituality is that I'm talking about, and also using some movies and metaphors to make the message a little bit clearer. You know what, let me set something up a little bit better here, because this looks like it's kind of off. Look more horizontal. I think that's more horizontal. Anyway, before I do that though, let me just kind of pan around so you can see what we're doing here. You'll recognize the campground if you've watched any of the other Nelder Grove videos. Normally my little sitting ensemble is either right there or down by the fire, but today we're set up here because I needed the right distance for these Buddhist prayer flags. Not that I'm Buddhist, but I believe quite a bit, except for a couple things, what Buddha talked about. But anyway, it's all good. So, we are set up over here, and there's various other reasons I needed to have this particular location, which you'll see in a bit. Alright. So, before we do that though, we can let me kind of preface all this stuff. What you're about to see is very dense. A lot of information here. Basically every sentence, every paragraph could be a page or an essay or even a whole video or whatever. So I'm trying to summarize as much as I can what I'm thinking about when I talk about spirituality, when I talk about there being something. Needless to say, it's still going to be kind of long. No matter, because this is like the secret of life, right? You can only do sound bites for so much, right? Anyway, so like I said, this is the third and last part of the introductory program on spirituality here. So, part C, claro que sí, man. I'm going to start by recapping. I talked about spirituality not being showy. I don't believe in like hair in any particular way, clothing. To me it's about practicality, because as you'll see later, the body is nothing to get concerned about. So to me it's all about practicality, what makes your life easier, what makes your dharma, your purpose in life easier. So it's not showy, it's not about give me amen and all that kind of stuff. No, and it's not about the colors, the robes and all that. No. So that's good news, because I happen to have very holy clothes. Lots of holes in it, so works great. Because the average age of, like this thing right here is, I got this like 91, I believe, 91. So, ancient. Okay, so it doesn't matter. To me, it's about flexibility, it's about comfort, and so on. I also talked about, that it's not about any particular religion. I have looked at a lot of religions, which is something else I mentioned on one of the programs. I went through the whole library, all the different books that I've read, the reference books I use, and so on. it's not about any particular religion. I'm not saying anyone in particular is bad for any particular reason. I'm just saying that nobody's found the answer, or I think we would know that by now, right? There wouldn't be all this competition amongst this thing. So clearly, none of them have solved it. However, they may all be right in a sense. In my book, in this book right here, in chapter 5, I talked about, which is The Shift, the Ancient New Religion, I talked about how if I were God, a logical God, I would say, let me put it that way, a logical God would not give all the answers to one people, because what happens then, people are envious, they're jealous, they're like, oh, no, they're going to look all the tricks to put you down and whatever so that your message gets screwed up, right? So they're going to try every trick in the book. It would seem to me the most logical thing, and based on all the weird stuff that's been happening of late, which I could, well, there's a whole lot of it in here, and more in my writing and videos that you'll see and whatnot. But with all the weird stuff that's happening, maybe it's a coincidence that, you know, everybody's beginning to learn about religions around all over the world, like the Buddhist prayer flags up here, and so on. There's some right across the street from the hitching post on Highway 41 I noticed when I was canning, when I was walking along there picking up CRVs. Somebody put prayer flags right on 41. Anyway, so New Thought churches are big. Unfortunately, I've seen way too many egos, and the stuff that I've seen, wow. Great examples of how not to be spiritual. So little by little, this is it. Like Muir said, this is God's cathedral right here. This is as good as it gets, folks. So you can get some of the answers in some of the buildings that people have put up, but for the real answers, there's a reason that so many wise people, prophets, whatever, throughout the ages, there's a reason they've all spent time in the wilderness. Ding, hello. Being here by yourself with nobody to give a crap about, nobody to influence, nobody to try to impress, when you can just think about stuff and think through things and notice patterns and all that kind of stuff. This is where it's at, folks. So I'm not pushing any type of religion. I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm just saying that it's not a very simple little story that you believe in. Oh, okay, poof, and everything's perfect. Sorry, folks. Your whole life is about learning. Your whole life is about learning. Okay, so just because you believe one little story, sorry, folks. But we'll talk more about that. All right. So what else? So I went through the whole library that I use in my writing and whatnot. And basically, I also talked about something else that I can bring to this mix, unlike some of the other famous people out there that talk about extreme sports and a rush, you know, adrenaline high, whatever you want to call it. Been there, done that. I've got over 500 skydives, about as many paragliding flights. I've jumped off El Capitan 3 times, and so on. So I know all about rushes, and I will be writing about them firsthand, not second or third hand, but firsthand. And I can tell you that this reality that you see, it can be warped various ways, not just by watching TV, some really cool sci-fi program. In reality, it can be warped, kind of. Don't get weird. I'm not talking weird, but you can see that it is really all a grand illusion. I'll talk more about that with the science thing in a bit. Anyway, okay, so basically it's about being eclectic, taking the best from everything. Like the old Eddie Grant song, you wanna rock, don't you, Eclectic Avenue. That will take you higher. Anyway, okay, so I also mentioned, again, my book in here, chapter 5, and the book on spirituality that I'm working on, which, by the way, has had a name change somewhat since I last talked about it, I think. Universal Spirituality, the same part. Universal Spirituality Post Shift. That's the subtitle. Because I want to get to not just what it is, which is what I'm talking about today, but what it all implies, what it means after that, right? So, as a result of all this stuff, let me try to summarize. Here's some basic main points. Now, I know I realize this is getting a little long, but keep in mind, folks, this is important stuff, so please bear with me. I'm trying to summarize this as much as possible, and I will flesh it out later on. But, okay. So, as you've seen, Ghost Adventures, all those programs, Ghost exists, and that opens up a whole big can of worms. If Ghost exists, what does that imply? And okay, bottom line, it's all about the soul. Everybody has a soul, but people tend to screw it up and they mistake they have a soul as opposed to their soul has a body this time around. I'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, also, so that's one thing. A force does exist. You can call it mastermind, you can call it God, you can call it Allah, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But something does exist. It can be detected. It can be tested. I've done stuff, you'll see the muscle testing, kinesiology. It can be shown, all right, that it exists. So it's no longer what if. It exists. So what is life all about? Well, as near as I can figure, based on all my research and what I've personally been through. Let me pull up here a little bit. Okay, life is about your dharma, your purpose. What are you here for? Now, for me, that's easy. I've got all this information. I have all this information on health and spirituality, and I can mix it with the anecdotes, the weird stuff that I've done around the world, and the weird things I've seen that just leads me to believe that, folks, something is going on, okay? And science and spirituality. I'm going to be actually doing the science video, the intro thing today as well, and it's been kind of difficult trying to separate what part is science and what part is spirituality, because they mix so much nowadays. So I'll be talking a lot about that. I have to look at my notes because there's so much. So now, you can get divine science. There are ways, there are signs that you get. Your family may think, oh, he's just one failure after another. No, what the problem is that person has not been able to figure out what their dharma is. But once their dharma is clear, once you receive clarity on what it is that you're supposed to be doing, your ducks start just going quackers. They get it into line. Sometimes it takes a lot longer than you want. Living proof, way longer than I wanted to, but all the ducks are almost there. Just a couple quackers out. But when you realize what your dharma is and what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and it's not about you, your life, your human ego thing. It's about your purpose, your soul's purpose this time around. Because your soul is immortal. More than likely, you've been here many, 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 many times. This is why you may have weird attractions for past life things, for history things. I could get into a whole bunch of that, and I won't, but trust me, that's where we get into the science and the tests that exists. So basically what happens is your soul is eternal. You're here on Earth School for a while, this time around. Then, poof, you die, you go and you're debriefed. And you learn, and probably all the bad people, or the people that you were bad to, all this bad stuff that you did, this is where it comes back to haunt you. All the heaven and hell, purgatory, all that stuff, isn't necessarily, especially people that murder other people, heaven help you, because those people have been there before you. So they've conducted recon on the territory, so they're waiting for you when you die. Keep that in mind, murderers. So, I hate to be you. But anyway, that could be it. If you've been a good person, then you got, all these good people on the other side wanting to congratulate you and whatever for doing a good job. And yes, you've learned your lessons and so on. If you're a bad person, then you got all these people that you were bad to waiting for you to give you a spiritual, spiritual warrior, Carlos Castaneda kind of stuff. Anyway, so that's just near as I can figure. And then, so you learn your lessons, you have time to contemplate, and then before you go on to a next life or next universe, because again, science talks about multiverses, multiple universes, potentially infinite universes, a froth of bubble universes. We're just one of these little tiny bubbles in a froth of bubbles of universes. Who knows? We don't know. One of the things I've got to talk about here, I'll just blend right into that. Nobody here will ever know. You won't know. I'm not going to know. I can try to point you the right way, but nobody's ever going to have all the right answers. Why? Well, even quantum physics will tell you. M theory, string theory, whatever. They talk about 10, 11 theories. Some people talk about infinite dimensions. They talk about dimensions. 10, 11 dimensions, infinite dimensions, who knows. So here we are in our measly 3, 4 if you include time. So we're here in our measly 4-dimensional time-space, and you think we're going to figure it all out? Given what we all know, given what humans are like, and how we've pushed knowledge aside and covered up stuff that went against what we had to say or whatever, I don't think so. So we're never going to find the answers here. Near as I can figure, this is like basic training in Earth School, okay? Like, Um, Gary Zukov talked about old school. I mentioned in my book as well. Here in Earth School, this might as well be basic training. Maybe it's gonna be, like the Buddha said, pain and suffering. So that's where my Ramets presentations come in, because you can kind of get around pretty much anything, no matter what's going on in the world, like I talk about in Chapter 3 in here, lackluster leadership and all the stuff that people are not hearing the truth about. But whatever's going on. The bottom line is here that you can get past it all, because it's all a lesson. You're here for a reason, okay? So, it's all good, and this is one of my fallback, just kind of mantras. It's all good. You may not think so, but nowadays it's pretty much like it takes me about 24 hours before I can take the worst case scenario and it becomes a great thing. So I'm moving on. All right, so so one of the things that I mentioned, science is proving what a lot of people have been saying about spirituality. So from this book right here, my next book, let me hold that a little bit closer. Slow down. Oh. Okay, this is about ready to go to publishers here any day now. There's something I wanted to read out of here. This is out of the epilogue. And I'm going to summarize I was going to read a lot more, but there's actually psychological experiments that have been devised and conducted which demonstrate that things like gratitude, forgiveness, sharing, prayer, and meditation can be of benefit to the human body as well as to the soul. And when something that is good for the soul turns out to be good for the body, and therefore the mind too, we should consider it a cosmic clue of something we should make an indispensable part of our life and beliefs. So science is starting to prove it, and one of my favorite quotes, which I'm getting way out of sequence right now, but that's okay. It was in this book, and I'm going to be mentioning it in the next book and the Universal Spirituality book, because it's such a great quote. This is referring to Max Planck. This is on page starting on 190. So when I was talking about how God has been depicted and well, let me back up. Eckhart Tolle, a distinguished spiritual leader who is one of those blah blah blah, explains just how muddled the image has become. The word God has become empty of meaning through thousands of years of misuse, blah 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 blah. And egoic delusions such as my or our God is the only true God and your God is false, or Nietzsche's famous statement, God is dead. Okay, fortunately, here's me again. Fortunately, there does appear to be a more favorable option than a God reflecting human egos, one who demands to be worshipped out of fear, or one that might be the product of one's wishful thinking, an imaginary friend for adults. In contrast to what many might expect, some of the more stimulating hints are actually coming from scientists, those who are often the most skeptical people when it comes to religious beliefs. Consider, for example, the words of Max Planck, the physicist who won the Nobel Prize in 1918 for his work in quantum physics, the science of the subatomic. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you, as a result of my research about atoms, this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. So, if you know anything about matrices, it's a connection of things. And this is where it gets into the concept of where our soul, or in this case as a human being, your body, while your soul is in it, is connected to the rest of the earth. Not just the earth, but the universe, to other people. This is where karma comes in. You don't need the Ten Commandments. You don't need the Golden Rule and all that kind of stuff. What you need to do is understand that you are connected. And whatever you do comes back to you. One of the analogies that's been used a lot is, one of the images, dropping a pebble in a pond. The waves go out, but then they come back. Pretty soon it's all messed up, right? It's like that. And again, there's other parts of science that really make that, whether it's a metaphor or what, but it makes it sound very, very plausible and might be exactly what's going on. We'll see. All right. So some other things. Here's a cool thing. So souls, like anything, I'm guessing, I'm assuming, I don't know. This may be why people learn quicker and become wise, whatever, in life. Some have been around longer than others. And that your soul goes through the stages of everything, from a rock, maybe a rock, a tree, all the different kind of animals, and all that kind of stuff. You know, and the soul that is you, the actual you, is just this little fuzzball, you know, because when you look at everything that's around, everything, it's like, when you think of, say, television, the old television, at the end of the night, when the transmission went off and it was black and white, the fuzz on the screen, right, when you got no connection. It's like that. Everything is either energy or not, right? So Einstein said it, E equals mc squared. Energy is matter times the speed of light squared. Okay, so energy is matter. Vice versa. What makes it special? What makes this clump of atoms more special than this clump of atom, or this clump of atoms, or any clump of atoms? What makes it special is the soul residing inside it, right? Now, again, however, humans are not the only critters out there with souls. I can pretty much guarantee you. Especially if supposedly we've gone through all these various stages of life, and who knows, this is just this one planet in this one universe. What about other planets, other universes, other critters, and so on? So the realm of possibilities is... So you may be kicking back in the afterlife. You're in the afterlife cafe. You're sipping a little cauldron of plasma, and this little fuzzball comes floating in and like, "Hey, bud, you don't recognize me?" And you're like, "Who are you?" It's like, "I was your dog, man, a couple lifetimes ago, man. I was your dog, buddy. Remember me?" It's like, "Oh, yeah, that's why you looked at me so weird." It's like, "I was trying to talk to you, and you just didn't get it." So I don't know. I don't know, but this could explain some weird behaviors from animals and stuff, which, trust me, I've seen enough of. It could be, just a more advanced soul. Many people, myself included, especially people like skydivers and whatever, it's like, once I've seen, it's like, with all of, let me put it this way, I'm ready for a break from humans. If I have to come back to this planet next time, can I please be a, I don't know, peregrine falcon or something that can, like, fly and dive and all that cool stuff? I don't know, something like that, because, there's a lot of experiences to be had. Again, going back to the extreme sports and the altered states of awareness, and the other cheap way of doing that with entheogens, also known as recreational drugs, but they're not recreational, folks. Not if you do it the right way. So there's various ways of achieving altered states of awareness, altered state of consciousness, and it can teach you that this is just one little nothing in all that may exist. So don't get hung up on it. This may explain why there's wars and genocides and all that stuff. Not because there's a bad God that allows it all to happen and all that stuff. It's just that because people have to go through this stuff. You have to learn. You have to be on both sides. You have to be the bad guy. You have to be the good guy. And so it takes all of this to explain everything to all the souls that may be or that may come along. And some future souls may be sitting in a classroom watching a videotape on, well, here's planet Earth in 2018 when here's all these stupid wars that were going on. I don't know. Maybe somebody's taping us right now. Maybe this is all one of those holograph programs and we're all sent here to learn stuff. I don't know. The point is, if you don't keep searching your whole life, you're not going to get a clear picture. But it's all good. Whatever happens. So, like, for example, death. Now, not just because I'm a base jumper and whatever. I don't fear life. I don't fear death. You know, not just because I'm trying to get out of the light. All right. Okay. I don't have a death wish. I never have had. Every time, I mean, the difference I can tell you real quick. A skydive, packing the parachute takes about 20 minutes. A base jump takes about 2 hours. And I use every encyclopedia in my collection. I use binders. I use everything. It looks like it's been ironed. Okay, and there's a bunch of different things that we do beforehand and so on and so forth. And so it's not because of that. But death should not be feared. There's a lot of cultures that, you know, well, there's some cultures out there that, you know, they actually celebrate it because it means you're done. You're done with this class. You get to move on to the next class, like graduation. Yeah. Now, that's a really hard concept to grasp. So think about that one for a while. But I'll be talking about that. And the good point about all that is that whatever happens in life, it's supposed to happen. Deal with it instead of whining about it and crying about it. Find the lessons. Find the golden, you know, the silver linings, golden linings, whatever. To use the metaphor that I've used before, with a little tweak, when life gives you lemons, write the ultimate guide to lemonade, you know, like that. Anyway, okay. So let me be very, 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 very clear here. I'm going to read this part because I don't want anybody. That is not to say I am recommending or ever will or would commit suicide. Far from it. That would be leaving Earth School without permission, like walking out of a high school class without permission. And as a teacher for 25 years, I could tell you how disrespectful, ungrateful, and frustrating that is. The last thing I would want to do would be to piss off the cosmic teacher, because then what? You're going to have to redo the whole class again? Forget it. No thanks. So, no. Tough times are great teachers. I talk about this at length in the next book, in the epilogue, talking about how grateful I am for all the stuff that happened, even the really, really bad stuff. So, no, tough times are your best teachers, and God would not have given you whatever problems you have if you did not have the internal fortitude to handle them. So, chin up. Instead, look for lessons, silver lining, and the light at the end of the tunnel. So, that's one thing you don't have to worry about. Another thing that you don't have to worry about, and this makes all the difference in life because it makes your life so much simpler, is you're not human, okay? You're a spiritual thing. You shouldn't give a rip about any other human stuff. Human stuff. Get it? Stuff. Other people's stuff. Yeah, you got to eat. You may need to raid a friend's refrigerator on occasion or something, but you don't need stuff. Okay, it's all about. It's like the Don Henley sign. You don't see no hearses with luggage racks. Yeah, it's like that. It's not about the stuff. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's not about power. If you're after any of those things, you're barking up the wrong tree. This is where the whole 7 deadly sins, like the whole gluttony thing. If you're in it for any kind of physical, human satisfaction, you're barking up the wrong tree. You need to be looking at the spiritual, long-term, eternal side of things. Why did this happen? Who cares? Like Richard Carlson, don't sweat the small things, and they're all small things. Talks about one of his theory or techniques was, is this going to matter in a year? Think about it. Is this going to matter in a year? Probably not. So, is this going to matter in 3 or 4 lifetimes? Really not. So, don't worry about human stuff. So, that frees you from having to compare yourself to the neighbors or to your friends or whatever. Hey, everybody's on their own path. Everybody's got to learn their own thing the hard way. If they're accumulating stuff, that's because they need to learn that satisfaction is not in stuff. The proof is around us all over the place. There's studies about people winning lotteries that are worse off a year later. The list of celebrities and famous people, whatever, that have killed themselves and are in rehab all the time and so forth. It's not about the fame and fortune, folks. If you're after that human stuff, This is why it's cool out here. Because this is not about all that stuff. The only human thing that matters out here, eating, drinking, staying warm, a couple other little things. That's it. Very simple. So the whole nomadic lifestyle, this is where, for you spiritual people, you really want to get it down, get into a nomadic lifestyle. This is where it's at. Alright, what else? So, comparing yourself to others is like apples and oranges. Don't do it. Concentrate on yourself, what you need to do. This is where you, this is where you may need to spend some time in the wilderness. The upshot of all this is that husbands, from now on, instead of the jewelry and the minks and all that stuff, you just say, honey, I want you to concentrate on the spiritual stuff. So here's a book by Wayne Dyer. Likewise, ladies, the other way around. Oh, well, honey, you know, I want you to be more spiritual, so forget the golf clubs. Here's a book by Dan Davis. No. Anyway, so the price of gifts should be able to go down. All right. So hopefully you're beginning to get an idea of what this is. I'm already into 30 minutes, and I haven't hit the metaphors yet. Okay. So I'll do it. I'm going to save the metaphors from the movies and whatnot, because that'll summarize it even quicker and hopefully be a little bit more fun. I've tried to make this as entertaining as possible, but we're going on 32 minutes. I'm sorry. But hopefully this will be the best 32 minutes of your life, because it can make all the difference. And trust me, I've tried all kinds of different things, and until you come to this realization of what I'm talking about, and it's not so simple. 32 minutes is not going to be long enough. This is why you may need the wilderness, and you may need the research. You may need all the books and read all this stuff, and you may want to have statues of Buddha and all that stuff. But it's not in any of them, but part of it's in all of them. So, good luck. It's a long road, but it's worth it. All right. All right. So I'm going to end this portion. So this is part C of the introductory part of the spirituality program. So there will be a part D of the 3D Sapiens Road Show. Hope you tune in for that. I promise that'll be a lot shorter, and it's going to be about movies and metaphors, and hopefully it'll help you understand from that. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Hope this was worth it for you. Have a great day.